Making progress, moving along. All right, so today we are going to talk about pricing and getting paid. Now, there are a number of different ways that you can set up your pricing. I prefer, at least for right now, based on what I know today, that a flat rate pricing is just simpler for me. Now, for some people, they prefer a variable rate. And there's quite a few other franchises that do that, because that will allow you to add on additional fees for other sign related yard rentals that aren't included, right? So we are currently today using a flat rate model. So for $100, we've been discounting it $10. You get a 22 to 24 hour yard sign celebration, and we'll check to see availability. But I like the $90 or $100 rate because it's easy. And when people ask you, what do you get? The details are laid out on our website. And we can actually do a little bit of a better job explaining that. But if we went to my website, which we will do, I hope. Yep. So we go to pricing. Okay. So $10 off your first order. Keep it simple with flat rate pricing. Have questions in a rush, check the talk to me box down below, which is right here. All right. Now, what's included? Here's an overview of what's included when you have a flat rate pricing. Your 24-hour display rental, I have to include it to also have 22 hours, the person's name. We have multiple different letters that people can choose from now, like tie-dyes and polka dots and things of that nature. We have a lot of other different themes. We have race cars, but this is a good idea for someone to look at. This is a good overview for someone to look at to understand what they get for $90. And we want to make this simple. And most people, when they see our signs and we post them on our social media or they're at a friend's house, most of them think that it's going to be a lot more expensive. I've actually installed a couple signs at someone's house where there's women in the cul-de-sac drinking. And when I tell them how much it costs for me to put up their sign, they're all saying an easy $200. Sometimes even $250. And when I tell them it's $90, they're like, how do you make any money? I say it's hard. But the more you rent, the better off you're going to be. So we have flat rate pricing. Now, I'm going to suggest that you do that in the beginning simply because it takes a level of detail out of an already fairly detailed process. And knowing what I know about me, I do not want to get into more detail about promising different colors and different themes when I might have it rented out the night before. All right. So I'm going to share with you basically what happens once Jennifer hands me back the invoice that I've printed for her. And the invoice, or I should say the document that she uses, because she has a completely separate system. She puts down all the notes and all the details of what it is that this person actually wants and what kind of happy birthday sign they want or what kind of celebration they want. And I also tell her beforehand if there's going to be a trip charge and that she makes sure that the customer is okay with that. So what she hands back to me is basically her sheet of paper with all of the contact information for the customer, confirming what the price is and if there's an additional charge. All right. And then I take that and I put it in our Square system, because I've already created an account for this person and I've already created an invoice for this person. All right. And we went through that in the other videos talking about how you could set up your Square account. So flat rate pricing is the best thing that you should do, I think, in the beginning. And we can talk more about variable pricing, and we can even talk about adding custom-made signs and custom lettering to the process as well, because that's something else that I'm going to be doing too. But for this video, let's just keep it super simple and say that you're going to charge a flat rate. And if you want to do something different because you know you believe in that, then go ahead and do it. But this is the process that we go through. During this conversation that Jennifer is having with the customer, going over exactly what they want from a yard sign celebration perspective, she's also making sure that the person understands, especially in the summertime, they have to water their yard. I mean, this North Carolina clay is like the equivalent of concrete. And I've heard the similar complaints of folks down in South Texas that if this stuff isn't watered, you're just not going to get it in. And it could be a real arduous process. So make sure that you tell the person that's buying the sign that it's imperative that they water their yard. Now, I haven't had to do this, but I would do it because I know how hard it is if I can't get the stake in the ground, I might have to say I can't do it. But I don't like to throw away money, so I typically work harder. But then at the end of the day, I spend more time on the actual order than I should, and it ends up being a break-even proposition. But that's another conversation for another day. So make sure that you talk about watering your yard. Now, if it's rained for a couple of days, I wouldn't even bother mentioning it, all right? So we talked about the general handing off the information that I need in the stage of our process where I'm ready to invoice the individual, okay? So I'm gonna open up Square and show you kind of how all this works. I probably shouldn't, because you're gonna see how much, well, I'm not gonna do that. So when you go into Square and you create your invoice, all right, you're going to type in, or what we do is we type in all the details that Jennifer talked to the customer about within the section of the actual invoice, okay? And then we add an item, which in this case is a yard sign, and the cost associated with it. We apply a discount if a discount's applied, and then we add a trip charge to the invoice. And then we email it to the person. And we email it to the person, and we get a notification that it's been sent. If the email address that you have on file is broken, you'll get a notification from Square saying that it wasn't delivered, and you can try reaching out to this person. We very seldomly have that issue at all. And if we ever do have an issue, it's probably because I didn't reach out to the customer to let them know that we were coming the night before and I forgot that they didn't pay. But within the Square system, you'll also get a notification of when something is actually paid. And so you can have a running list within the invoice section of Square, if that's what you end up using, of what is outstanding that's yet to be paid and what has been paid. And what has been paid is labeled in green, and what hasn't been paid and is overdue is labeled in red. So it's an indication for you to make sure that you get paid before you go on your installation. And we ask people to, pay right away if they can. But Jennifer also tells them too that they pay 24 hours ahead. And we've honestly just never had really any issues with it. So it's been fine. During the process that Jennifer also has while talking with these people, some people may request to pay via PayPal or whether to request or Venmo. And if you are taking those items, that's a great thing to do because it's just easier that way. Venmo's, great. And if that's what somebody wants to do, then, obviously do that. It's just a simpler way of getting paid. Some people only use Venmo, and that's okay too. Some people only use Venmo and cash. So there's no right or wrong way of actually doing this. It's just what works for you. And in this case, for my pricing, the invoicing style that we have and the process that we use is ideal for us. Included in the invoice, okay, the document that Jennifer has created I want to open it up again here. And get a little insight on researching TED Talks. All right, so let me pull this out. That's not it. Here it is. So Jennifer has a completely different system than what I do because she's not technologically advanced. So she will write the customer name, she'll write the address, she'll write the telephone number, she'll write the email address, and the install date. So on the invoice, I include within the notes the install date, which would be a day before the actual celebration. So today's July 1st. If I was having somebody want a celebration July 2nd, tonight at 9 o'clock, I'd be invoicing. So I'd say the install date would be July 1st at 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock or whatever time it happens to be. And then I'd also put on it the celebration date. And then here within the notes field is where Jennifer's going to be typing, turquoise and teal stars and things of that nature. And then she'll also put in whether or not we're using the tie-dye letters, we're using the red letters, we're using the black letters, we're using the polka dot letters. She'll put that all in here. And I will include all of that within the invoice. So whatever she writes down, I put within the invoice. And then I add the fee, I add the one-way trip charge, and boom, I send it. And I kind of forget about it, to be honest with you. Because all day long, when we're really busy, I'm getting people paying when they pay. And some days I'll have 5 people paying all at once. And some days I'll have 3 or 4 days where people aren't paying at all. The other thing that you could do in the process of getting paid is we use Google calendars. And within Square is an appointment section, which I need to get more familiar with because I think that could be an easier process to do here. But in this case, I have on my other computer screen, I have my Google Calendar opened up with all of the installs for that given day and all the installs for that given month. So when I get in the morning and I see that we have 2 installs, I reconcile who we're actually doing the installation with what I have in Square. And then I make sure that it's paid. And if it's not paid, I send the person a note. And if it is paid, I let them know, hey, you're on the schedule for an installation today. And please let me know if something's changed. The last thing you want to do is go for an installation and someone's made a change on it. And that's also a good way to double check to make sure that you've been paid. And that's kind of how it all works. And what's great about Square is once somebody pays an invoice, okay, you're going to get notified, and that they're going to take their 3.5%, and they're going to tell you within your Square account that you have a balance, let's just say, $92.50. Okay. And I have set up my Square account where at the stroke of midnight on every night, they transfer whatever my balance is into my business checking account. And it's usually there the same day or the next day, 24 hours. So Square will allow you to decide how often and how frequently you want your balance, okay, or revenue that's been generated direct deposited into your account. And I prefer it every day because it's easy, okay? And that's a good thing to have. But I think that's really about it. We've never really struggled with the payment process, and we've never really struggled with getting paid. Partly because we did a lot of work during the COVID time and moms needed to have their signs there, but yet at the same time too, people wanted what it was that we were doing. And so in any event, we haven't had that much trouble. The only trouble that we've had is me not confirming an invoice has been paid, and we go on an installation, and thank God we have honest customers. They have called and said, hey, I forgot to pay the invoice. But I don't tell the general because she would get super mad. So for this topic about pricing, I'm going to recommend in the beginning, because it's easy for me, a flat rate price. And you need to figure out what your flat rate price is based on your area and the cost of living in your area. Now, if you're installing signs in Los Angeles, instead of charging $90, you might have to charge $180, right? Because just the cost of living there is so much more. So you need to figure that out. And once you've done competition overview of who's in your area, that's stuff that you want to make sure that you do, because you don't want to be overpriced. But to follow through on that train of thought, I'm starting to understand that the variable pricing model will also allow you to open up and actually generate incremental revenue or additional revenue on top of your rented sign. And that's where good money can be made. Because if you can upsell, something that's $60 and you're renting a sign for $90, I mean, yeah. So we've purchased a plotter, and we're gonna do that, and we're gonna offer that as an added value price. So hopefully this gives you a better understanding of kind of how the pricing model works within Square. Now, this same dynamic is going to hold true for people who are using probably PayPal or people who are using QuickBooks, right? The process may be described differently, but it's the workflow that I'm describing to you that you can determine whether you like or not. And for us, the flat rate pricing made the most sense. And I'm learning more as we go on that I should think about doing something different to make more money, okay? But what I would recommend to you in the beginning is keep it super simple, keep it super, you don't want people asking you questions, why did, the next day, hey, I saw the sign, it looks great, but you told me I was gonna have 7 candles and I only had 5, do I get a refund? Like, you just don't want to have those kind of conversations because they don't often turn out well, and having a flat rate will allow you to either put more or put what you can. And most of the time, 90% of the time, people are just happy their kids are smiling. So it works out from that perspective. So I hope this makes sense. If you have any additional questions, please put them down below, and we can talk more about it on a live stream if that's what you wanted to do. But at the end of the day, pricing and getting paid is the final step in your process of your sales process, and you want to make sure that you're keeping track of it. And you can, and it's the best part of the whole thing. All right. So listen, let me know if you have any questions, and make it happen.